So so I went here and I just went to Home Depot and I just literally typed in bolt, and the very first one came up. That's probably a very popular size. I just clicked on the very first bolt on Home Depot and it just said this. And I'm like, okay. So zinc plated hex bolt, very cool. This is definitely a hex bolt. You can see by the head, and it just happens to be zinc plated, which means it keeps it from getting rusted. So bolts are made out of steel, but steel gets rusty. So if they coat them in zinc, they will get less rusty. So that's kind of cool about this one. And what does this mean? So this is definitely a US version. It's got fractions, 3/8 of an inch. And it's got 16 threads per inch, and it's 1 inch long. So you can see that part right here. Notice that, ignore the 1/4. Notice it doesn't say 1/4 here. That's just how thick that head is. It doesn't really matter. So 1 inch at the very end that I highlighted right here, that's the total length right here of the bolt. Let's see if I can scroll down. That's the total length of that bolt. And the 3/8 is how wide it is right here. Just the total outside width of that bolt. I will zoom in there. And that's the total width of the bolt. And and then the threads per inch is 16. Now, what does that threads per inch 16 mean? Oh, I'm not. Thank you. Thanks for the heads up on that one. Let me share my screen. I wasn't sharing it. I can do that. Hold on. Share. Thanks for the heads up on that. So this is the very first one I found. It says 3/8 by 16 by 1, and it's zinc plated, like I already talked about. But this is the size. What does that mean? So this first part is how wide the diameter of the bolt is. This is how many threads per inch, and this is the length of the bolt. So if we go here, we'll see that the diameter is 3/8, and that's why it says 3/8 right here. It's got 16 threads per inch. So if you can count 1 inch, so this bolt is not the real bolt you're buying, okay? And the reason being is, and neither is this one, unless there's 16 there. Let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. I counted 20. So this bolt pictured is not the real bolt you're buying, because this is 1 inch long bolt, it says right here. And it says it should have 16 threads per inch, and it's 3/8 in diameter. So I can't tell if it's 3/8 in diameter, but I know it has. I know that this thing is an inch long as it says it should be, but there is more than 16 threads there. So this is just a generic picture they're using, but it's not the real one, because ours should have 16 threads in it in 1 inch, and it happens to be 1 inch, which is not very long there. Going back to this. Going back to your assignment. So if we go to your assignment here, we go to classwork here. I have a sheet for you guys right here. And let's see if we can find that one. So let's ignore this middle one, the British inch products. We're going to be focusing on the right and the left today. So ours was 3/8 right here. And it was 16 threads per inch. Okay. So that's the threads per inch right here. And notice there's UNC and UNF. The coarse ones that have less threads per inch, and the fine ones which have more threads per inch. So the one they're selling us on Home Depot is the coarse, because they said it's 16 per inch. So definitely it's this one right here. So your assignment, if you click here, you'll click on this right here, this assignment, it'll send you to this, is to find all of these and then tell me which each one is. So if I do one of these for you right here, let's do this one right here. So these ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the US, and these 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are the metric. So let's do the first one of each. Let's start, since I'm on US, I'll do this one. This one says 6-32 times 58, times 5/8. So this is the diameter right here. And you're thinking 6 inches. Wow, that's a huge diameter, and it's not. So if you look at our chart right here, there is no 6-inch diameter. The biggest one is a 1-inch diameter bolt, which is a big bolt, a 1-inch wide bolt. That's a big bolt. So we're going by size 6, which happens to be a very tiny screw. The diameter of it is right here, and it's 0.138. So notice a 1/4 inch. Let's just look right here, the 1/4 inch right here. What is the diameter of a 1/4 inch? Well, it's a 1/4 inch, 0.25. And if you look at what's the diameter of a 1/2 inch bolt, it's a 1/2 inch, 0.5. So when we get to these, they just have numbers for them. And it says a size 6 bolt will be a very small 0.138. Okay, so that's a little bit bigger than a 1/8 of an inch, because this one's 1/8 of an inch right here, by the way. So a size 5 bolt would be 1/8 of an inch. And a size 6 is a little bit bigger than that. It's 0.138. So one thing it asks you is the diameter of the bolt. Where are we? We were right here. So the diameter is 0.138, I do believe. I have to go back to that. Yeah, 138 right here. That's the diameter. And the thread count's either 32 or 40. What is ours? It's 32 right here. It says. So threads per inch is 32. And the cool thing about this setup right here is it tells you the threads per inch. By the way, it's not asking you, but it happens to be that 32 is the coarse version. UNC happens to be the coarse version. There is one that's finer that has more threads per inch if you're interested, but that's enough of that one. Then let's go back here. And we have one more piece of information, the length of the thread. And it says right here, that's that last one, 5/8 of an inch. So if you're wondering what 5/8 of an inch is, you probably can get it from this chart. Let's see, 5/8 is 0.625, but that's not what that means, but you can still get it from there. You could just type in calculator. Where's my calculator? And just type in 5/8, 5 divided by 8, and then it should give you the same number, 0.625. So I'm just asking you to put it in decimal format, 0.625. There we go. So here's the length, 5/8 of an inch. It's not very long. It's a very short bolt here. And it's 32 threads per inch. So you want to make sure that your nut that you're using on the other side of it is going to be that, or else it won't fit on there, right? And the diameter of the bolt is 0.138 inches. Pretty small bolt. So here you would do a 1/4 inch diameter, 28 threads per inch, and 0.75 for the length of the bolt, right? Because that's what 3/4 of an inch is, 0.75. Just do 3 divided by 4. Now let's go to metrics. Metrics are actually pretty easy. If you look at the chart here on metrics, there is no fine or coarse. So if we look at the threads, I'm really zoomed in there. If you look at the threads per inch, TPI, threads per inch, it's a certain amount depending on the bolt you're talking about. And normally there'll be an M before it, certifying that that's a metric 4, a metric 5, and a metric 6, so you don't get confused between the American sizes. So going back here, let's go. Let's find an M3, that's a tiny little screw, an M3 times 16. First thing, the length of the thread. This is the length of the thread. It's 16 millimeters, okay? So these are always in millimeters, okay? If you want to figure that out in inches, you can just say convert 16 millimeters to inches. And that is about a little bit over a 1/2 an inch, 0.62 inches. You don't have to put them in inches. You can leave them in millimeters. I'm fine with that, okay? Then right here, what's the threads per inch on an M3 screw? This is an M3 screw. Let's find out the threads per inch. Here's M3. And the threads per inch is 51 threads per inch. It's a very fine thread. So 51. It's a 51 threads per inch. And what's the diameter of a M3 bolt? I think M3 just means it's a 3 millimeter diameter, but let's just double check that. M3, what's the diameter? The major diameter is 3 millimeters right here. It also on this chart tells you in inches the diameter. In case you just want to know the inches and diameter. So it tells you either one. So I'm fine you putting either one, but if you're putting millimeters, make sure you're putting millimeters. So if you say this is a M3 screw and the diameter is 3 millimeters, that's fine. Or you can say an M3 screw in diameter is 0.118. Oops, right here. 0.118. So you can see that it's slightly smaller than the 6 size screw in the US version. So an M3 is that size and diameter. So it's fine either way. So just make sure you put how long the thread, the length of the thread is, the length of the bolt, how many threads per inch, and the diameter. To get threads per inch on these, remember, you'll definitely have to look at the chart. To get your threads per inch on this, you just have to read these. In fact, if you look at all these right here, really, I trying to think, you don't really need to go to the chart too much for those, because everything you need to know is here. It's the length of the bolt, the threads per inch, and the diameter of the bolt. So it's got a little bit of everything there already.